Hey guys, this is Sports with Dylan. The first NFL head coach has been fired this season. Matt Rhule, as expected, after a dismal 1-4 start by the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers thought they solved their woes. They had a good roster. Baker Mayfield seemed like a solid quarterback. They have some good receivers, a superstar running back in Christian McCaffrey. They patched up the offensive line, and their defense looked superb. So what could have gone wrong? And apparently the answer to that was everything. They seem to be playing fine, but Baker Mayfield is just playing terribly this season. He doesn't have it. I would honestly bench Baker Mayfield for Sam Darnold if he was healthy and not look back. Because if you look at how Baker Mayfield's playing this season compared to how Sam Darnold's played last season, Sam Darnold was playing better. So that is not very good for the Carolina Panthers, who thought they'd at least temporarily solve their quarterback woes. Because of the fact that Baker Mayfield is playing so terribly, then both DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson have terrible statistics this season as well. Because if Baker Mayfield's not throwing them the ball, they can't catch it. So I'm not going to completely blame them, but I will say that neither of them have been playing very well, especially DJ Moore, who just got paid this last offseason. And it would not surprise me if both of those players are traded before the deadline. The defense, though, has been playing great, which stumps me so much. I don't get it. Why have the Panthers been so bad if the defense is playing great? Brian Burns is playing like a superstar. Derek Brown's broken out. Xavier Woods is looking like one of the best safeties in the league. J.C. Horn is playing amazingly. That whole defense has taken a step up. And yet Baker Mayfield can't do a thing with that team. I am honestly blaming Baker Mayfield for virtually all of the reason Carolina is doing so terribly. But I can also blame Matt Rhule's play calling. He has not been doing the best. And of course, if you had a good quarterback, say, I don't know, let's just say Lamar Jackson was the Carolina Panthers quarterback right now, then I think the Carolina Panthers would be a lot better. I don't think Matt Rhule would be an amazing coach, but I think his play calling would be overshadowed by the fact that they still have a pretty good offense. But that is not the case for Carolina. They have Baker Mayfield. So there's nothing the Carolina Panthers could do right now except fire Matt Rhule, which they did. Since the Panthers have been doing so badly, I have a list of 8 Panthers players that should be traded before the deadline. That list includes Christian McCaffrey, because he's a superstar running back, but by the time the Carolina Panthers are mediocre again, he is not going to be anywhere near productive. He might not even be in the league, so it just makes sense to trade McCaffrey on both sides. Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, because both are good wide receivers, but they just can't pull it off with Baker Mayfield. And there are plenty of wide receiver needy teams that would be happy to take them on. The Green Bay Packers and the Baltimore Ravens both come to mind right away. Another wide receiver would be Terrace Marshall Jr., but for a different reason. He has not shown that he's very good. He hasn't done anything in the NFL, so I think a change of scenery would be very good for Terrace Marshall Jr. Another player that could use a change of scenery would be Yetur Gross-Matos, and I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, because he, too, has not had the NFL career people were looking for as a second-round pick. So it'd be nice for him and the Panthers for him to just go to a different place where he can be productive, hopefully, under a new regime. Another defensive player would be Xavier Woods, because as I mentioned, he has been playing amazing this year. But he's 27, so he's not going to be on the roster by the time the Panthers are productive again. Which means that would make sense to trade away a guy that's been playing extremely well and get something for him and maybe draft a new safety with that pick. Another defensive player would be Shaq Thompson, because he's starting to get up there in age. He's been productive this year, but not amazing, and there are plenty of teams that would be willing to take on his cheap contract. Lastly would be Dante Jackson, because the Panthers have two quality corners in J.C. Horn and C.J. Henderson on that roster. I don't think they still need an aging Dante Jackson as well. That has not been productive whatsoever this year. So that brings up the question. Now that Matt Rhule has been fired, who will be fired next? I think the best bet right now is Ron Rivera, because the Commanders, too, have a solid roster. Carson Wentz hasn't been playing badly this year, so you can't even blame it on the quarterback. That whole team's been playing pretty well, and yet they can't do anything. They're 1-4, just like the Carolina Panthers. So I suspect if the Commanders go to 1-5, Ron Rivera will be sent out the door. Another coach would be Frank Reich, because the Colts have a really talented roster. Matt Ryan, though, can't seem to get it going this year, even after they traded away Carson Wentz and traded for Matt Ryan this offseason. So they should be doing a lot better than they are. They should be winning the AFC South by a wide margin, but they're not. And I think Frank Reich is partially that reason. Lastly would be Cliff Kingsbury, because the Cardinals have not been doing amazing this year. I didn't expect them to, and I thought Cliff Kingsbury would be fired. I suspect Cliff Kingsbury will probably last the season, because the Cardinals are just at the brink of mediocrity, where they're not bad enough to want to fire your coach, but they're not good enough to make the playoffs. So I suspect he'll last the season, but it's possible if they just collapse that Cliff Kingsbury is long gone. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys again sooner than you think.